Being a dungeon master is a lot of fun, but it can also be a lot of work. Between coming up with encounters, writing plot hooks, designing maps, and counting all of your many dice, you can end up spending hours outside of the game doing all the little things that help run a campaign. It's no wonder then that sometimes DMs can get a little tired and lose motivation. We call that burnout, and if you've been behind the screen long enough, you've probably felt it. In this video, I want to give you tips to beat burnout. Things that can help you fix the root of whatever's causing your problems or stop them from ever settling in. Without further ado, let's get started. There's a joke in the D&D community that the real final boss of any campaign is scheduling. Whether your party has 1 or 100 players, it always seems like finding a time where everyone is available to play is the biggest challenge of all. But the flip side can also be true. There is such a thing as too much D&D, and if you're feeling burnt out, it may be down to how often you're playing. One easy way to stop those feelings is to reschedule your sessions. This could be as simple as postponing for a week. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed with other life stuff in the moment and just need a small break. But every DM preps at their own pace and has a different appetite for D&D. Just because your favorite actual play show meets weekly doesn't mean you have to. Every other week, 1 in 3, once a month, 3 weeks on, 1 week off, there are lots of ways to schedule your sessions that may work better for you and your players too. This is especially true if you're juggling multiple campaigns. Even if you do the bare minimum when it comes to prep, every new campaign you take on means more time coming up with encounters, detailing NPCs, or reading through the module that you've chosen to run. Not to mention the time spent playing the game. So if you start to feel burnout creeping in, reevaluating how often you play is a good first step. Between work, school, social lives, and other hobbies, there's only so much time in the day. And when you add preparing for that big battle your players have coming up, it can get stressful very quickly. Depending on how much work you put into prepping for your games, it can start getting tougher and tougher to find time to write super detailed notes for every city, forest, and ancient tomb that your players come across. And the more it starts to feel like a chore, the more feelings of doubt and burnout may start to creep in. As someone who likes to make a lot of notes for my games, sometimes the easiest way to fight burnout is to scale back your prep. How you pull back will be different for everyone, but try to identify which areas your players tend to focus on most and put the bulk of your efforts there. If your party cares about combat above all else, then planning out a few simple quest lines with lots of fun and varied enemies will be a better use of your time than coming up with complex branching storylines that they probably won't be invested in. If your party never explores the world's cities and depths, then you can probably get away with not naming every shopkeep in the next town they visit, instead focusing on an overall description and a few points of interest. Above all else, when you're not feeling motivated to do a lot of prep, just worry about getting through the next session. What are your players about to do, and what's necessary for you to actually play? That may be as simple as grabbing an encounter table online, coming up with a very simple plot hook, and then they're on their way. There's also lots of great single session quests you can find pre-written online. Using 1 or 2 for a couple sessions can buy you time to prep for whatever comes next. Beyond your notes, are there other aspects of your preparation that take up a lot of time? Making maps for combat is one example. Instead of hand drawing maps for each encounter, you can just get a dry erase battle map that lets you sketch out terrain in the moment. Or if you're playing online, find maps others have already made in a fraction of the time. Or maybe you dedicate a lot of time to painting miniatures. Your players will probably be fine fighting monsters that are still colorless too. Motivation often comes in waves, and you can always spend more time planning out your deep lore and painting minis when you feel inspired. But scaling back your prep to just the essentials can get you through those times when you just want to play D&D without all the homework. One of the fun things about D&D is that the adventure can be anything you want it to be. In my campaigns, I've run quests that were reminiscent of pirate films, murder mysteries, zombie invasions, and political dramas. Sometimes your burnout may be coming from boredom. Are you always running the same kinds of quests? You might need a little bit of variety. Shifting genres between adventures is a great way to stave off burnout. Horror, comedy, mystery, westerns, taking inspiration from lots of different stories, not just fantasy, can help your adventures feel fresh and different for both you and your players. Not sure where to start? Just look at modules and online adventures. From Ravenloft to Icewind Dale, you can find campaigns set in all sorts of places and with all kinds of styles to help fuel your imagination. At the end of the day, D&D is a game. The point is for you and your friends to have fun. And if you're not enjoying it, none of these other tips are helping, you may just need a break. Take some time off, do other hobbies, maybe even be a player for a bit. Imagine that. You might find that you don't miss it, and that's fine too. But when I've taken breaks from running the game, I usually end up thinking of all sorts of plot lines and worlds and characters for my party to explore, and can't wait to jump back in. So don't be afraid to drop the DM screen, put away your notes, and take a rest. It'll be waiting for you when you're ready. Those are my tips for beating burnout as a dungeon master and getting back to having fun. Do you have your own methods for keeping things fresh when your motivation starts to wane? I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, I always appreciate it if you'd leave a like and maybe even subscribe to the Bard's College. I make videos about D&D, DMing, and everything in between, so if you like this one, stick around. But for now, good luck, and remember, crit your players.